Welcome and good morning, and thank you for joining me this morning. We're going to talk about a topic today. We're still staying with that theme that we created for May, which is talking about the communicating from the heart, right? And so we're going to go to that. Today we're going to speak about what we don't speak about. and we've come to this, so many times there's conversations or issues that we don't speak about. And I'm fascinated by how globally, both locally and globally, these conversations that are quite polarized at the moment in the market and in contact that I have. And I hear this one, on one side, the sense of, I'm optimistic. There's things that are happening at this time, that we are developing new ways of being, and we're going to keep them past this time of this particular time. And then I hear on the other side the sense of I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and there's a lack of attention to detail, and we've got to figure out the detail. And there's a tremendous amount of stuff that's sitting on both sides. And what I've become conscious of is just how important it is for almost both sides of these people, of people who hold both views, to almost give each other permission to say, it's okay to talk about I'm angry, and it's okay to talk about it's positive, and what can we learn about that? So today I'm really just in a very curious way saying, let's peel back a little bit and gently those things that are off limits for us, those things we don't want to talk about in our business, in our personal life, in a family situation, whatever it is your situation, or we don't talk about it because we don't even know what it's about. We just feel grumpy. So let's look at that space. And really the invitation is to invite you to look at this space of you being the core owner, to come back to those concepts of understanding where I am and what I'm doing, and so therefore how I can manage myself in this process and really feel like I am in control of certain things. So today we're going to cover this topic of off limits. And we will also talk about next week, we're going to talk about connecting our mind and our body, and we'll go to that place. So I'm going to switch off my webcam, and we'll go into the conversation now. I just want you, just for a moment, to be aware of anything that you consider to be off limits, and take a look. And as I invite you into this next slide, I'm going to ask you to go through each of the pictures together with me, so we can start to connect to this concept. And it might be, you might already have a situation where you're saying, yeah, I know exactly what I'm not talking about at the moment. But for some of you, you might be saying, I'm not sure that there isn't anything that I'm not talking about or I'm not voicing and expressing. So let's have a look at these pictures and really start to see if something comes up for you. And whether it does come up and whether you become aware, a little bit more aware of where we are. So let's start together, and I will have signaled to you just a picture that I've started with. And if you have a look at this picture, and you also you might have accessed the communication, the resource that I gave you on Wednesday on compassionate communication. But if you don't have it in front of you at the moment and don't have it, please don't worry, we will share it after this session so that you have access to it. But if you take a look at this picture and you see this lady in front of you, for me, if you were trying to understand what was for her off limits, and I'm focusing on this mask, this kind of tape across each of these people's mouths, that almost just is there to symbolize the fact that I'm not saying what I need to say for whatever reason, okay? Now, if you looked at her and you were looking at the compassionate communication resource that I provide you, you would become quite conscious. For me, when I just look at her and I'm guessing, I'm not trying to, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing, she looks like she has something to say, and she has a need in her to be heard. And I'm bringing it back to this concept of recognizing what needs we have in us. It's almost the sense I want to be heard and I want to say something, but she's feeling, if I had to look at possibly what the feeling she has, just looking at her expression, she's feeling pretty cranky at the moment, which if you look to the resource that we provide for you, she would be in that category of not having her needs met. So she's feeling There's a group of feelings that we talk about that are called like mad feelings, when you're cranky, frustrated, grumpy. So that would be kind of what might be happening with her. And maybe that's something that you can relate to in your current situation, or that off-limit situation that you find yourself in. So let's have a look at this gentleman over here. He's an interesting one. He's kind of different. I don't know about you, but you could interpret kind of what he's looking like in a number of different ways. But I've just, you know, when I looked at him, there was a sense of, okay, like a deer in the headlights look about his eyes. And in a way, looking rather anxious, like if I take this mask off and I tell you what I need to say, or I express what I need to say, you know, there's almost a sense of I'm a little bit anxious that it may open up a can of worms. And in a way, he might have a sense, he might have a need to feel a little bit of stability, knowing that I'm going to be safe if I have to say what I need to say. And again, just think about where you are at this moment in time. So let's have a look at our all-time favorite. If any of you know this celebrity, for me, he looks like he's feeling really bored at the moment, which would fall into this category of feelings called sad, right? And in a way, one of his needs, just having watched Simon Cowell on a number of different programs before, I have the sense that maybe his need is actually to be really productive and to move through this situation and stop sort of ignoring this off-limited conversation, but actually engage with it and resolve this issue so that there could be a sense of resolution. Because for a lot of these conversations, if you just watch my highlights at the moment, they sort of go round and round, and we never actually deal with them. So let's have a look at this next slide. And I've chosen this picture kind of deliberately because a lot of the off-limit conversations, which would almost be like this, you know, where if you think about conversations that cycle. So in some organizations I work with, there'll be a conversation that cycles around like parking, for example. But actually what's happening is they're not saying what they need to say. So they might not even realize what the situation is, or what is this off-limit situation, but they're just not sharing it. So today is really like looking at that and saying, okay, what happens? And the analogy is a tape recorder, because if you imagine your last conversation that you had, you know, whatever you've applied your mind to, and just take a moment to think about what might be cycling. And by the way, it could be a conversation you have with yourself and others. It doesn't have to be with others, right? But if you think about that conversation for a moment, you would almost become aware that if I taped it the first time you had the conversation, and then you started to have the conversation the second time, and perhaps you left the room, I could play this tape and it would be in the room. I could almost be able to hear exactly what you're saying, word for word, maybe slightly different, but the context and the issues would be the same again. And that's when you know you absolutely are cycling and something is off limits. It's like, we don't talk about my mother, you know, we don't talk about the finances. There's something that's off limits in the situation. And I'm really quite curious, what happens to you? Look at this question. What happens to you in that situation? How do you start behaving? And this is often a very good clue for us in terms of what's going on for us and being in an off-limit situation. So, excuse me. I'm going to just take you to a slide, which is I'd like you to take a look at, first of all, the number. So you'll see the number there. Can you see it? It's the number 8. Now, I've shown you the slide of the iceberg because it's a wonderful visual to remind us that sometimes we show behavior and we know we're showing it. It's in this upper level over here, this conscious space, okay? And we are aware that we're showing it. But a lot of the times when we're not having conversations and they're off limits, we are behaving in an unconscious way. We're not saying what needs to be said. And there's about 8 different kinds of behaviors that we have when we're in these off-limit situations. In a leadership training or a training about communicating or a training on mentoring, where you're looking at behaviors and you're trying to work with an individual that works with you, I would share all of those behaviors. But today what I'm going to share with you is these two which are depicted with these pictures. And I'm going to start with this beautiful picture by Paula Schmidt. I don't know her, but I just wanted to acknowledge her. When you blow this picture up, it's amazing. It's this empty chair, right? Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm in an off-limits situation, the person doesn't have to be in the room. The chair can be empty and I can now have the conversation. In fact, it's way better if it's empty, because then I will say what I need to say. It happens to me when I'm driving my car, you know. I'll have that conversation through a car with that person. I want to say this thing and I haven't said it, and I really need to be saying it. And I don't. So it's happening in the car. The second symptom of that you can recognize, if you haven't yet identified, I'm hoping now you're starting to connect with this concept of off limits and the fact that I don't say what I need to say. But the second symptom that we have is this symptoms of lemonisms. They're called isms, actually, technically. We call them isms. They're part of us, you know. I've written it up there just for you to remind you. That part of us, when we generalize, we make generalisms about things. So instead of me talking to me actually dealing with the off-limit situation, say with my wife, I will say, you know, my wife doesn't understand me. Actually, you know what? All women are like that. They just don't understand what goes on with us in business. You know, they just don't get it. And so we generalize and we talk about, you know, all apprentices are like this, and all bosses are like this, and all husbands are like this. And we start going into this generalism because we are cycling. And you'll see I'm just pointing now to this magnetic field here of the cycling, which just is a better depiction of the cycling. And I thought from a technical point of view, you would feel, you know, it's just a different example of using magnetic stuff where we're cycling. So I'm hoping you have started to establish in your mind that thing that is off limits. And it happens even in business partnerships, right? We know what we're not allowed to speak about with the boss, because then we start cycling around it and we never actually get an answer, or we never go there. Do you have a situation in your life where some conversations or issues are off limits? So all you have to answer is yes or no. And we could have done this with our hands, but I thought let's just try it with a poll and get a sense of what's happening for you. But maybe, Steve, there's something for you that you just want to share that is also cycling, and we can just share a concept while we wait for people to finish the poll. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, Steve, so I just want to check in with you if that's okay.
Yeah, no, Debbie, thank you very much. I think, yeah, I'm getting used to these early morning put on the spot. But I think just to share in terms of where you are now and what I've experienced over the last sort of, you know, couple of months or weeks or whatever, is that, you know, there's a sense of being overwhelmed. I mean, you know, in terms of too many things going on and not sort of being able to focus on those things that you can change and those things that you can't. And I think my discussions this week with some individuals has been that that feeling of self-worth is not there anymore, and esteem is not there. Being like a hamster in a wheel, just going round and round and round with no sort of direction or focus in terms of where it is. Not being able to put things into a checkbox in terms of what is the higher priority, for example, finance, your emotions in terms of those that you work with and those that you live with, not being able to express how you feel in terms of really how you feel. As I said on Wednesday, you know, we often ask that question, how are you? But we're really not asking how are you. And I had that conversation with an individual this week where the question was asked, and he said, no, I'm asking, how are you doing? You know, and you know, again, it's just to be open and say, look, I am battling. I mean, it's not something that that's going to put you in any other, you know, position or whatever, but it's to be honest and start to address those things. Being angry, frustration, sense of no hope has been a lot of those items that have been coming out. People saying that, you know, their stress levels are very high. It's affecting their well-being. Isolation within isolation, where we're in isolation, but they're also isolating themselves from family and sort of work colleagues. not sleeping well. All of these things are just becoming very overwhelming. And the one point that came out was people building walls, where we actually become, unapproachable. And I think these are things that we need to deal with and be able to do that. And I know in my darkest times that I've had, I've been at that place where, you just don't think that, life is going to be any better tomorrow. But it's people that come into your life that actually start adding that value and sit there and just sometimes just sitting, with you, that you don't have that sense of aloneness, helps. But that's where I am in terms of, what I've experienced this week, Debbie.
Thank you so much. And I see Jacques, you just shared also, the answer. There's like a lot of people who have conversations or issues that are off limits. And I'm curious about the second one, if you've got the answers for that, if you can share the results about whether there's something that is cycling in people's lives as well, and we can have a look at that. Okay, so thank you for that. And Steve's just articulated so much of what might be or might not be happening for you in your life at the moment. So as we step into the space, thanks for sharing that, Jacques, and I appreciate that. As we step into this invitation to gently peel away the layers of what is off limits for us, I wanted to just share with you this this quote from Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you've read his book, Man's Search for Meaning of Life. It's like, I think I've got the title. I could have messed the title up slightly because if you've read it, you'll know the title. Let me just quickly check. It's Man's Search for Meaning, right? And he was in Auschwitz. And he came through that process, and he shared his book and a number of concepts. But one of the big things that he shared is that the last of human freedom is actually to choose one's attitude. And that just fits in so beautifully with the series of talks. It talks about our intentional choices and how we respond to situations. And I wanted to, as we gently shift from just identifying that issue and then moving to, okay, some of how we can peel back the layers and deal with this issue, I wanted to also invite you into this this concept that I started to share with you on Wednesday. And by the way, if you didn't see that last session, it should become available on our IOPSA's website. And it's just, again, Marshall Rosen inviting us to say we need to know how to listen to people's feelings and needs, no matter how they're communicating. Now, I want to just say this is about our own feelings and needs as well. Even when we are showing up like a jackal and we are communicating with ourselves in a negative way, it's really important that we listen anyway to ourselves and don't just stay at that jackal level of the negative stuff, but really go in there and try to understand what we need and how we're feeling, and just access that wisdom that is available to us. Now, I chose this picture that I'm just inviting you to look at now, of this young man, this little boy, because he just looks so joyous, right? And so if you're able to peel away, I just feel like he feels joyous. And there's a sense of him having his, I'm guessing, but he's having his need met by being seen. There's somehow, if you look at just these eyes, they seem to have some kind of eye contact, and he's being seen at the moment. And I just thought it's just a beautiful picture of invitation to say to you, come, let's peel away and be curious about what it is we're not saying or aren't able to talk about. And so we come to this concept of really looking at how we are showing up, whether we're showing up as a jackal, and you'll see I'm just directing you to the jackal picture, or as a giraffe at the moment. But the invitation with this slide is to focus on two things, right? And I'm going to circle them now. Focus on our ears, listening, and what are we hearing? And translating that, just follow my highlighter down to this giraffe's heart, which I'm hoping I've got the anatomy right, it's somewhere over here. Listening, sensing, and then speaking. So this is the journey we're going to go through. Now, you might say to me, oh, but I can't possibly go through those journeys, all of those things. And even if you were able to listen, just listen to what you're saying. Often we don't know what it's like to have a presence, for somebody to be present to us. I can't tell you how many people say to me, Debbie, I'm so appreciative of you just being present and listening to me and really listening. And we forget to do that for ourselves. So again, the invitation is to go to that space. These 3 steps of really connecting with that, okay? Now we could choose, absolutely, I'm going to give you the example. We could choose when we hear ourselves speaking about that cycling conversation, and I've just chosen this random example. You don't support me, I've had enough. Okay, that could be you or someone else speaking. We start there. And you might respond to the situation like a jackal and go, oh no, here we go again. I've also had enough. And back we go to, oops, that's cycling. Okay, so 2 jackals are speaking to each other right now, and we stay there. And or, here's the or. The invitation is, or you could go to a different place. Okay, here we go. I'm not going to respond like a jackal. I'm going to use my ears, try to concentrate and use these ears, go to my heart, and then come back to my mouth. So I don't know what you heard with what I said, but I'm just going to give you an example of what maybe I could have heard if I was in this conversation. And again, I'm going to refer you back to the resource that is absolutely available on my website. It will be email. It can be available to you in a handout. Please, if you haven't got it, it is accessible to you. But go back and just have a look and just guess what this jackal is trying to say. It could be your voice or somebody else's. So I'm just guessing. I'm not acknowledging you at the moment. I'm not acknowledging your contribution at the moment. And that must feel pretty darn hurtful. And you could have found something else that you heard in that. Okay? And again, that acknowledgement, this word here, acknowledging contribution, Steve spoke about it earlier. I don't know what my value is. I don't know where I am. And if that is something that is your need, and that would be under meaning, right? If you look at the needs, the high-level needs that are on that brochure, they would fall under the heading of meaning. And it would be meaning you needing in your life. And I need to acknowledge my value. Well, that's fantastic. Now at least you know, hey, I have got value. And I don't know how you're feeling. Maybe there's a feeling of hopelessness. Steve used the word. I've used the word hurting here. And now you can access that. It's almost like peels back a little layer that says, okay, I don't feel my value. And now we get to once we can start with that conversation, we can start to unpack it a little bit. Now, if you're in a conversation, it may be that you get a reaction from the person and they go, what just happened? And they almost do this picture over here, okay, with this guy. I just love this picture. It was just an amazing picture. This guy, like, if you can imagine, if you heard me clap, it's like I'm thinking the guy claps and he goes, whoa, and he lands on that hand. He goes, what just happened? I've been heard, my word. I actually hear myself. Or you could be, there's still some more there that hasn't quite finished. A jackal doesn't always just soothe down after a little bit. They actually need to tell you more. So here's my invitation to you. We go back to the giraffe, go back to that moment, listen, sense, and ask. And now your question is, tell me a little bit more. And as you go into that place of telling me a little bit more, so you have the opportunity to start to really access that wisdom of what is going on with you. Now, if you're already there, perfect, but you might not be. We're going to take our time, and it takes us time to learn. So the thing is, if we just even identify the first millimeter of our need, and we now know it, we can now remind ourselves, and here's the thing, I haven't built this in, but just listening to what Steve said, I just want to come back to this. Take yourself to a time when you were feeling very confident and allow yourself to be reminded of that time, because inadvertently it will remind you of what you are good at. Or else, if you're having a conversation, you can peel back and you can actually start having a real conversation and stop the cycling and actually get to what's really happening. I really realize takes patience and time. And so I'm going to invite you into this practice. It's available on my website. Please feel free. It's a simple practice of learning to just listen for needs and feelings And when you go to that practice, on the same page, you will find this resource that I've been talking about if you didn't get it on Wednesday. So now I want you to just take the time to come back to that situation you identified earlier and just reflect on just part of what I've shared with you. I mean, this is such a big topic. When we work with leaders and I coach with you, it takes time to go into this space, right? I'm just inviting you to open up your mind to the space. So I'm asking you now, what questions may this raise for you? What statement did this raise for you? How does this make you feel to just know that if I can go to the needs and the feelings, I can actually open up a space that peels back layers. And this is the time when I really want to say to you, please go to the chat. Use this opportunity, we've got a few minutes, to just check in with a question or a statement. Any questions, any statements, any feelings that you're just feeling? And please, what I want to invite you to, if just by going to this place, there's a whole lot of emotions and things that have come up for you, and it feels overwhelming at this point in time, I want to invite you just to go to this place and say, okay, I have all these emotions, and I just decide what you're going to leave in this room now. At this very moment, decide what you're going to leave here, and then come back to where we are.
There's one comment, the feeling of anxiety.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a sense that that may come in. So what I want to invite you to is just connect to that feeling of anxiety, if you're possible. Be gentle with yourself, and just try to recognize what you might need right now. So maybe there's a sense of you might need to feel like I need to just go and spend some time in peace. I might just need some peaceful space just to absorb where I am and just to connect to what's happening for me. You might feel like you need to leave that anxiety. I need to actually treat myself with safety. And maybe for you, you might feel like you want to leave that anxiety in the room now and just say, okay, I'll leave it here and I can come back to it later when I'm feeling a little bit more like I can deal with it. And if anyone else is feeling like that, please do that now. Just take a moment to leave that anxiety or whatever it is in the room and just hold on to one thing that you can take with you. So one of the things that you might want to take with you is that all I need to do is listen when I'm in this space. Or all I need to do is go to my heart and check, what do I need right now? And maybe you need to stretch, or you just need to move your body and do that. Maybe you just need a sense of belonging. And so this might be a good time for you to make a call to someone who you really care about and who cares about you and will make you feel like you belong. Maybe this is a good time to phone me after the session and we can connect. Or it's a good time to connect with Steve. This is when we really start, as we peel away these layers. That's why I really want you to do it with curiosity and gentleness. As you peel it away, this is the time for you to connect to your needs and really start to identify them. And if it's too overwhelming, you are in control and you have a choice. You have a choice. I am not in control, you are in control. And you can park it just for a moment and intentionally choose to be calm and to provide yourself with peace. If music works for you, use music. If watching a movie would work for you, watch a movie. Just check how you transition into answering your needs. Anything else that's come up, Shark?
Not knowing where we're going yet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious. I'm kind of thinking that it must be very hard to sort of have the sense of unknown, and to have this the sense of not having purpose or making a contribution. You know, you're almost not making a contribution at the moment. So what I'd like you to just come back to, and you've heard it probably a couple of times, but it's absolutely sound, is I'd like you to focus on those things that you can contribute to. So what can you contribute to at the moment? You can contribute to figuring out the very next steps in terms of your processes that you might be able to take to make people feel safe when you go back into plumbing. Or you can figure out maybe the direction that what you want to focus on as a next step in terms of dinner, you know, and what you want to choose to do with that, or the fact that you can just go to your window and you can open it up, and by the way, whoever that person is at your seat right now, if you can, just open up your body and just breathe. Just take a huge big breath. You can focus on that, and please bring it down to tiny, tiny, tiny little steps. Because in this space, when we're in here, tiny steps matter. Don't pop it off. Don't think you're silly. Do the tiny steps. What can you be in control of, and take control of that? Steve mentioned this, you know, okay, on the weekend I'm going to take the dustbins out, you know, because that's what I could do this weekend. Well, if that's what you can be in control of, that's okay. Start with that. That's why these webinars, like being in control and coming to this webinar or coming to the next one, are important issues. So thank you for raising that.
The not knowing of where this will end up.
Okay, so we don't know, right? But we need to come back to what do we know? What do we know, and what are we going to work with now? If you can today, just access my the resource material on compassionate communication from our website that I shared with you just now, this address over here. And as you sit at your desk, start connecting. Just every a couple of hours, just check what's your need, and then figure out how you satisfy the need with what you are in control. And that will bring you back to, I don't know where this is going, but this is what I can be in control of. Also, one other thing, please, if you're going to listen to what's happening around you, listen to it in a designated time and not all day long. You know, switch off. We need to connect at a human level today. Our brains need to connect at a human level, at a curious level. We need to be looking, be curious, ask our questions. Hey, when last did I smile? And we need to be curious about what we're doing. Switch off those parts. You know, the coronavirus is not having to dominate your time. Switch to those places, allocate time, get informed, and then look at other things that you can do and can control. I don't know whether it's helped you, but I'm more than happy to keep time for you after this call. Anything else?
Yeah, Debbie, I think also in terms of our mind space, you know, I mean, if I take an example, yesterday we had one of our auditors, and I'm sure you won't mind me putting, but he just put a positive sort of quote out. And that, you know, although it went to maybe 40 or 50 people, but when I received it, it's something that you actually need, you know, in terms of, you know, in the autumn when the leaves get blown off the trees, you know, the one thing is sure, they're going to come back next year. And I think that that's where we've got to get to our space, is to be able to look at it and say, yes, things are tough. We don't know what the future holds, but in terms of our mind space is what we do with it. We can either be very negative about it, or we can be very positive, and in terms of, but at the same time being real. So for me, you know, I have some things that I look at, you know, like for me, the Cinderella Man, you know, is about, you know, Russell Crowe, about a heavyweight boxer that went from the champion to the lowest, but it's how he actually, you know, crawled his way up and fought his way out of a situation. And I think we all have it within us to be able to be stronger than we actually think we are, and just start applying things in terms of being positive but real.
Yes, absolutely. You know, you take me back to when we started off about James Stockwell, you know, have faith that we'll prevail and feed ourselves with positive stuff but face our reality. And you take me there. I watched a stunning movie. You know, this is the other thing, is we often like put stuff that is also miserable into our world. You know, we watch these violent movies and these, like, we go into this space, but hey, there's some amazing movies. There was like an Instant Family. I don't know if any of you watched it, and you probably think it's like light and ridiculous, but it gave me so many laughs, and it dealt with reality, but it spoke about laughter. And let's talk about those, you know, what's amazing, your brain responds to, when you give yourself something which is different or unusual, and you ask each other, just getting up in the morning, looking at yourself in the mirror, if you're on your own, good morning, I am happy to see you this morning. You know, a simple, silly thing like that can bring us back to just connecting to the hormones that are released in our body that are positive hormones. And that just triggering that physiological conversation, smiling. You know, I'm going to actually just put my webcam on, and I actually considered this today. I really considered leaving this webcam up the whole day. And I know we're fatigued with webcams, but the thing about webcams is they get us to see another human being. They get us to see a face, and we can connect to a face. And I was speaking, working with someone yesterday who's been completely alone this entire time. And he, was just saying, it's just so nice to have a different conversation, something about random things, around about completely different things. And we were exchanging different quotes, different readings we'd had, different things we had shared that were meaningful to us, that we needed to help us in terms of our business and where we are, and just in terms of our family and our connections. And at the end of that conversation, what a difference I felt and he felt, because we were releasing our hormones in our body that are happy hormones. Exercise does that. Certain good foods do that. They release these happy hormones. And so this is, when we talk about uncertainty, one thing that becomes almost more certain is that we recognize in this time connection, looking after ourselves. These are important things. And so we focus on what we can. Some of you might be tired of learning Italian. I'm learning Spanish. I'm learning it. But it's about that connection. So recognize it's okay. I don't want to dispel where you're at, because for the first time, I feel like we've really connected to your ability to open up, and I thank you for that. And this is the time when you really start to say, okay, I recognize this. Now what do I need? And now I can make intentional choices to help myself. I can. And it's in you. And you've done it before. Think about a time when you've absolutely done it before, where you have found in yourself the answers. It's in there. I know it. If I had to draw a diagram with you right now about the amazing essential quality you have it, and you will access it. So that's the kind of things we need to be doing, is really connecting to us, to those things that stimulate those happy hormones, those love hormones, and be real. Be real. Touch us. You plumbers, touch. Go back, find a pipe and touch that blooming pipe. Go there and fiddle around, fiddle with your taps and figure out some things that you can touch, because touch is an important thing. If you can't touch another human being, touch other things, touch textures in your home, feel the walls, touch stuff, work with those hands. You're good at those hands, work with them. So hopefully that opens up a new space for you. Steve, Jacques, I don't know, Steve, what call you want to make? Anything else come up on the line?
Yes, there are actually quite a few comments here. The next one is feeling that the person is ungrateful and doesn't understand what I'm doing for them.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I'm wondering if you, for you, how else gratefulness could show up. If the person isn't showing up in that way, how else are you being able to connect with a sense of gratefulness? Because if gratefulness is what you need, and that human being can't offer it you at the moment, then it comes back to how do I express that, and how do I find gratefulness in other ways, so that I just get a sense of gratitude. Now, there's some people who will offer us that sense of gratitude and remind us that we are absolutely beautiful and unique in our own way, and will recognize, just say thank you. And I want to say thank you to you right now. Thank you for bringing that up, because I'm grateful for that, because other people will feel like that. And I want to say I'm grateful for you just sharing that part of your heart with us. But in the real situation, it's about how do I then express myself gently. Just say, I want to come back to this topic, but I want to just offer it to you in a different way. I really, and remember, I don't know if you attended on Wednesday, but express for your request. Sometimes people don't know how to show the gratitude you need. Express your request. I really want you to just stop for a moment, look at me, and just thank me. Just thank me for what I just did. Just thank me. I really appreciate that. Is that okay? Could you do that? And when we just slow down ourselves and we just make our request clear, a simple request, just thank me. I need that thank you right now. That helps people realize, oh, that's what I need to do. If we start off with that that jackal, and we go, you're not grateful, you don't care for me, then we're going to get a jackal. We often get that jackal response and we cycle again. So let's just start off with where we are, what our request is, and gently see and make the request small. If it's big and they can't do it and they come back to a small one, it's okay. Slowly, slowly, you peel back the layers.
There's another one that says blames others for your situation.
Oh, yeah. And it's just so real, isn't it? We do. I mean, even live here, we'll be blaming ourselves for some situation, or other people, we'll be blaming them, we're blaming the government, we're blaming them. And, they are part of making a contribution. They are messing it up. They are. But hey, it's interesting. They are. And so once we finish blaming, we come back to that situation. Okay, so what do I need right now that would help me feel differently about this? What do I need about this? Maybe I just need to focus on they did screw it up, they got it wrong, and I need to come back and what can I do about my own situation? Because the minute we give power to someone else, we lose it. We hand it over. Just gently take it back. You're in control. We want to blame the world, but actually, right now, in this moment, the world is the world and they're getting on with it, and I'm here. I'm in control of my space. How do I do that? And, a very simple way is to do this. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you're stressed, you almost do this, you breathe, and you go like this, you rub your head, you almost go like this. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And I just want to invite you to do that, literally. It's wonderful. It has this way of connecting with our bodies. You just go up, rub our head, breathe in, and just go down your body. And just do that a couple of times. Even that just connects us back with our body, and we can take back our ownership. And go, okay, I'm ready. And you do that 3 or 4 times. It's amazing. Touching, just using our normal, natural mechanisms to connect with ourselves, release some of that stress. Anything else, or that anxiety, it sounds more like anxiety. Anything else? So what I want you to do now is just for a moment, just be out of control. Just be out of control. Figure out how to be out of control and see where you act. Because actually, if you're not in control, sometimes when we lose our body, and I'll deal with this a lot more in the next session, is that when we just be out of control and we just carry on. I mean, I look crazy, right? But I'm okay to be crazy with you. But we be out of control. Sometimes we actually learn something when we're just allowed to be out of control. Well, okay, maybe we just need to go there. And then we go, okay, what do I need to feel in control? And we'll find our wisdom. We'll connect to our wisdom of what we need to be in control of. That control is an important thing for an entrepreneur. It's very powerful. It's how we manage our life, right? We take very calculated risks. Very calculated risks. We take risks, but they're calculated. So control is an important thing. So if you can control your day, how you get up out of the bed in the morning, what you say, how you start your day, then put in the controls you need. Other people cannot control us. Only we can. Put in the controls you need. So when I need stability, I get up. I do my reading. I like put these controls in. I do my reading. I then do my exercise. I then start my day, and I put the controls in that I need. And I take control of what I can. What I can't take control of is for somebody else to deal with. Only what I can, one step at a time. It's a theme. Have you noticed? And control this. It's a theme coming up this morning. So thank you. Thank you for raising that.
The last one we have for now is someone saying they have a feeling they're feeling worthless.
Okay. Can I please ask you, if you're still feeling in that space after today, please feel free to give me a call. My email is debbie@youareworthit.co.za. My phone is 076-604-3905. Happy to work with you following this session. Please feel free to do that. Thank you. Thank you. If you don't call me, no worries. That person on the feeling worthless, I want you to come back to just a place in time when you have been really, really worthwhile. And let's work with that, okay? And as we close, I'm just so thankful, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Thank you for honoring me with some of your thoughts and your feelings, and just taking the time to share this heart-to-heart connection. I just want to say thank you for that. And I just want to honor you for being courageous and brave and being a giraffe and opening up your heart just a little bit more today. So thank you. And as we go, we leave, I just want us to recognize that when we listening to ourselves or others, I just wanted to leave you with this kind of a three-part statement. Silence creates space to listen for needs and feelings. Sensing with our heart creates presence, and communicating from the heart creates connection. And even if we can just listen with presence, that will go a long way to unleashing just a little bit for ourselves of what we need and how we can answer it, and a little bit of the barrier that's between ourselves and another person. So thank you for today. I really, really do appreciate it, and I wish you so well. And may you really be the change that you want to see. That worthwhileness that you want to see, may you be that worthwhileness that you want to see. May you be that person who adds the wisdom. May you be that person that has love in your heart for yourself and for others. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much for the session, Debbie.
Thank you, Jacques, for your support and help. And thank you, Steve, for your willingness to be on the spot. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And please feel free to connect with me. Take care.
Yeah, I think, Jacques, just thank you very much for extending the session, and certainly to those that have stayed in. I think, Debbie, it's been a real good, honest session today. And just one of the quotes that I read the other day: if you're going through hell, keep going, and that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, walk through it. Don't let the barrier get in your way. It's like walk through it, walk around it, go above it. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for that beautiful message. Thank you.